Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I've got a video here. I am actually super excited for. Um, it's right up my alley. I hope it is up yours as well. But it is from Curious Britain, and it is 10 most haunted hotels in Britain. Would you stay the night? Um, I feel like there's a lot of so-called like haunted hotels here in the US. Um, one being like I can't think of the name of it right now, but like the hotel where The Shining was filmed is definitely one of them. My mom's actually stayed there, no experiences whatsoever. She didn't even know that that was the the hotel or anything about it. Um, but yeah, I'm excited, super excited for this. I will link it in the description as always, so you can go check out Curious Britain yourself and some of their other videos. Subscribe to them, and if you want to jump over there and like this video, I endorse it. But let's go ahead and get it going.
In June 2014, during the Sri Lanka Test, England cricketers Stuart Broad, Matt Prior and Ben Stokes could not sleep on the third floor of a London hotel. Broad reported taps turning on by themselves and a presence at 1:30. He shared a twin room with Prior. Moeen Ali's wife refused to stay. Broad put it on record in the Daily Mail, and a BBC broadcaster had described that same floor 41 years earlier. That hotel is one of 10 across Britain where named witnesses say something was there that should not have been.
This is in York?
The countdown begins at number 10. In 10th place, the Mermaid Inn in Rye, East Sussex, stands as a coastal relic where centuries of violence and secrecy echo beneath its timbered floors. The cellars, carved into the chalk in 1156 and expanded through the 15th century, once harboured the Hawkhurst gang, smugglers who ruled the Rye coast in the 1700s. Their hidden tunnels and illicit gatherings have left more than folklore, and staff with decades of service describe persistent chills and the unmistakable sense of being watched below ground. In 1998, a guest recorded in the inn's log fled the cellar after seeing...
Wait. I want to go back and see that again.
Tunnels and illicit gatherings have left more than folklore, and staff with decades of service describe persistent chills and the unmistakable sense of being watched below ground. In 1998, a guest recorded in the inn's log fled the cellar after seeing a figure in white vanish through a bricked archway. The same apparition, known as the White Lady, has been described by staff and guests alike, always silent and always in the oldest part of the inn. A long-serving barman, interviewed by the local press, said that he heard footsteps on flagstones when the bar was closed and the keys were in his hand. Here, the convergence of medieval architecture and 18th century criminal history seeds a pattern.
Love the buildings.
One where the past refuses to be quiet, and where witness testimony persists long after the smugglers are gone. Number 9, Airth Castle in Falkirk carries the weight of a specific tragedy that has echoed through its walls for generations.
I would stay at any and all of these.
In 1881, the parish burial register records the death of a young servant girl who fell from an upper landing while carrying linens. The entry lists her name and the date, a sobering reminder that the castle's history is not just royal, but working class. More than a century later, in 1987, Mrs. Helen MacLeod, a guest whose name appeared in the Falkirk Herald, described her experience in the nunnery room. She reported hearing footsteps approach her bed, followed by the unmistakable sensation of unseen hands pressing down on her shoulders. The room remains available for booking, its floor plan unchanged since the Victorian era. The convergence of a documented fatal accident and a named guest's testimony, separated by more than 100 years, positions Airth Castle as a site where the past is not merely remembered, but for some, physically felt. Ettington Park Hotel in Warwickshire.
What's up? This guy's voice sounds like Jude Law. That's who I keep thinking of as he talks. I would definitely stay at a lot of these, but the thing about me is like I've never seen anything at all like ghostly or scary, but I'm oblivious to so much. Like I'm always like so much in my head that I'm not paying attention to like what's going on around me anyways. Um but I feel like if you knowingly go in to stay in one of these places and you are thinking about it, like I don't know, I think you would be maybe even hyper vigilant to where you're seeing stuff that you know might not see otherwise, or you might be making too much out of something that isn't, if you know what I mean. Um, but it was interesting, and I don't know if he's going to circle back around to that cricket story. But I do know, I remember hearing this during our last football season, like American football season, about like there being a hotel. I want to say it was like maybe the LA Rams or something like that, but like several of their players would stay at different hotels. Like there were certain hotels that they would not stay in because they'd had experiences. There was one guy whose wife, I guess she wouldn't go. She wouldn't go to that particular hotel because they had experience. He was just like, I'm not gonna be able to sleep, so stay somewhere else.
Just
Which is
stands apart
crazy.
for its unbroken lineage and the gravity of its recorded testimony. The Shirley family's roots on this land reach back before the Norman conquest, anchoring the estate
Wow.
in nearly a
Wow,
millennium
look
of
at
English
that.
history. Within its neo-Gothic halls, the atmosphere evokes a monastic stillness, particularly in the corridor adjoining room 12. In 1995, housekeeper Anne Pemberton, whose name appears in both the Stratford local paper and the estate maintenance ledger, described encountering a brown-robed figure at precisely 3:15 in the morning. She later recalled that it was just outside room 12
That's
in
so
the corridor
pretty.
that always feels colder than the rest. She thought it was a guest at first, but it moved without a sound. The incident was logged that morning by the maintenance team, adding a formal record to a tradition of whispered stories. Ettington's antiquity is exceptional, yet it is the intersection of deep family history with the direct recent account of a named staff member that gives this manor its persistent reputation, a place where the past is not simply remembered, but sometimes, according to those who work there, seen. Number 7. Arnos Manor Hotel in Bristol carries a quieter but persistent legacy of loss.
Pretty.
Behind its Georgian brickwork, the building served as St. Joseph's Girls' School for more than 70 years.
I went to
In
St.
October
Joseph.
1918, the influenza pandemic swept through the dormitories, claiming 12 pupils in a single month. The
What?
Bristol Diocesan Archives and surviving school registers record the names and ages of the children, their absence marked by a plaque in the former chapel. Today, room 160 is the focal point for unexplained activity. Night receptionist David Eng, interviewed in 2020, describes the sound of skipping footsteps in the corridor outside the room, always at the same hour, always when the floor is empty. His logbook entries, kept over several years, document these nightly disturbances. The pattern echoes the trauma of the building's past, where institutional memory and architectural continuity seem to sustain a presence that is both mournful and unresolved. Here, the tragedy of a school lost to epidemic lingers in the fabric of a working hotel. Number 6. Craigienos Castle in Powys, Wales, stands as a monument to medical suffering and the persistence of grief. Between 1913 and
Aw,
1939,
those
its upper
babies.
floors served as a tuberculosis hospital for children,
Aw.
a fact preserved in National Archives hospital deeds and parish burial registers. The former ward's balcony, where beds once lined the stone balustrade, is now the site of repeated reports, most often the sound of children's laughter echoing through empty corridors. In August 2024, a new piece of evidence emerged. CCTV footage released by the hotel's public relations manager, Sian Davies, shows a mop gliding 4 meters across the tiled ward floor at 2:37 in the morning with no visible cause. Davies titled the video Ward 4 Incident, and within days guests began referencing it in their reviews.
I bet that
Bed number
like
4 in particular has drawn attention since 2005,
makes
with
people wanna
guests
stay there
describing
more.
small handprints on the glass and the sensation of being watched. A 2019 wedding guest wrote that there were children's voices in the corridor, but when they opened the door, it was silent. Here, the trauma of early 20th century medicine lingers, reinforced by digital evidence and a pattern of child apparitions that have persisted into the present. Number 5. The George and Pilgrims Hotel in Glastonbury, Somerset, stands at the intersection of faith and folklore. Founded in 1320 to house pilgrims journeying to the abbey, the inn's medieval stonework and timber beams have witnessed centuries of devotion and upheaval. The most persistent account centres on the room known as the Monk's Cell, a chamber that retains its original stone altar and a single narrow window overlooking the abbey ruins. In October 2007, a couple staying in the Monk's Cell reported seeing a hooded monk seated silently at the foot of their bed. The incident occurred just after midnight, and the couple described the figure as motionless, hands folded, face obscured by the cowl. Landlord Jane Sabin recorded their statement in the guest complaint log, noting that the guests left the room before dawn and refused to return. The Coaching in-group interview with Sabin confirms the incident details, and the log entry remains on file. Reports of the monk in this cell have surfaced intermittently for decades, always tied to this specific room and its medieval furnishings. The George and Pilgrims' long association with religious pilgrimage, coupled with the continuity of the monk's apparition in the same chamber, sets it apart, a site where the afterimage of monastic life seems to persist unbroken by the centuries. Number 4. The Golden Fleece in York stands at the foot of the shambles.
Hey, I don't even know the story yet, but I definitely want... Ooh, and there's Greg's. I definitely want to go to York if I'm able to come over the pond. That's one of the definite spots that I want to go. It'd be cool to stay here. Guys, in the description, there's a GoFundMe to make a trip possible. If you're able to donate, that would be awesome. If not, glad you're here to watch.
Its narrow, timbered frame pressed tightly against the medieval butcher street that gave the room its name. Licensed as an inn since 1503, the Fleece has long attracted stories of apparitions, Lady Alice Peckett, Roman soldiers, a Victorian child trampled by dray horses, but it is the Shambles room that carries a record both recent and disturbing. In February 2012, landlord Ricky Mann, interviewed by the York Press, described a night that forced even the most sceptical to reconsider. At 3 a.m, a couple, both self-professed non-believers, called for Mann in a state of panic. According to Mann, they were found dragged half out of bed by an unseen force, the woman weeping and the man pale, refusing to re-enter the room. This was not the first such report. Mann confirmed that 14 previous complaints had been logged against the same bed, each describing a sudden violent pull toward the floor in the early hours. The inn's own incident register, though not publicly released, is said to contain a pattern. Always the same bed, always the same hour, always in the Shambles room. Here, the transition from apparition to physical assault is documented not in legend, but in the words of the landlord and the signatures of his guests. The Golden Fleece remains open for bookings, its most notorious rooms still available to those willing to test the boundary between skepticism and fear.
Coming to the if top I get an opportunity, man, I'll do it. I'll stay in that room.
Stands as a monument to persistent, concentrated hauntings. Its reputation shaped by 5 decades of direct testimony and a rare intervention from the church. Built around 1145 atop a pre-Christian burial ground, the inn's history is layered with centuries of occupation, but it is the modern record that sets it apart. In 1968, John Humphreys purchased the property and began what would become a near half-century of solitary residence. Humphreys maintained a meticulous ghost register, amassing over 500 signed entries from guests and investigators who described cold spots, the sensation of being watched, and, most often, violent disturbances centred in the attic priest's room and the northwest cellar. These records, though not publicly archived, form the backbone of the inn's haunted reputation. The most striking episode came when Bishop John Yates, then Bishop of Gloucester, conducted an exorcism that failed to quiet the phenomena. Yates later described the building as the most evil place I have ever visited, a statement that, whether or not it can be independently verified,
The Catholic
has
Church?
become inseparable from the inn's identity. The convergence of Humphrey's 50-year logbook and the bishop's declaration places the ancient Ram Inn in a category of its own, a site where religious authority and lived experience both mark the same ground as profoundly disturbed.
It looks
The
really
Langham
cool.
Hotel in London is defined by the
Ooh, I like
enduring
that
mystery
too.
of Room 333, where high-profile witnesses have reported nearly identical phenomena across decades. On the 23rd of July 1973, BBC, Radio 2 announcer James Alexander Gordon awoke in room 333 to a fluorescent ball of light which slowly shaped itself into a man in Victorian evening dress. This encounter, discussed on air that week, triggered a BBC internal memo warning staff about paranormal complaints at the Langham. While the original broadcast and memo remain locked in the BBC written archives, Gordon's account is anchored by its precise date, location, and the credibility of the witness. Room 333's reputation resurfaced in June 2014, when England's cricket team stayed at the Langham during the Sri Lanka Test.
Oh, here we go.
Fast bowler Stuart Broad, interviewed by the Daily Mail on the 19th of July 2014, described waking at 1:30 in the morning to the taps turning on and off, the room growing uncomfortably hot, and a strong sense of being watched. Unable to sleep, Broad
Usually it gets
discovered
cold.
teammate Matt Pryor was also awake in the same room. The two ended up sharing the twin beds for the rest of the night. Pryor later confirmed Broad's story, describing the same presence and inexplicable taps. Ben Stokes, also on the third floor, told the press he struggled to sleep and noted that a lot of the issues are on that level. Moeen Ali's wife refused to stay at the hotel after hearing about the disturbances. Most of the 22 logged sightings in room 333 cluster in autumn, with October seeing the highest number.
See, I feel like something like that, where it's these guys who are sports players, where it's kind of like a tough guy, athlete persona. I think it gives some credibility to it. Not only that there were two of them that could corroborate the story, but like that they even came out and told people, because I feel like a lot of guys in that position would probably keep it to themselves and just deal with it,
Yet the 2014 cricket episode stands out for its public documentation and the celebrity of those involved. The third floor's raised Victorian slab, unchanged since the 1970s renovations, and room 333's location, preserved on the 1910 floor plan, tie the modern accounts to the same physical space as the earliest reports. The Langham's haunted reputation rests not on rumour, but on the convergence of testimony from public figures, institutional records, and a single, unaltered room. The recurrence of detailed, credible accounts over 40 years sets room 333 apart as a focal point for unexplained events. And finally, in first place, the Schooner Hotel in Alnmouth, Northumberland, stands at the summit of Britain's haunted reputation, not for legend alone, but for the scale and specificity of its documented accounts. Twice, in 1993 and in 2004, the Poltergeist Society of Great Britain formally designated the schooner as the nation's most haunted hotel. These awards were not conferred lightly. Each followed months-long investigations led first by Dr. Margaret Ellis, and then to a decade later by Peter Wyatt, whose teams catalogued the hotel's phenomena with the rigour of forensic auditors. Their case files, now cited in regional press and paranormal directories, form the backbone of the schooner's notoriety. Within these records, the numbers are striking. Over 3,000 separate sightings have been logged across 50 years,
3,000.
a volume unmatched by any other British hotel.
Wow.
More than 60 individually named apparitions are recorded in society files and guest registers, including a spectral soldier in the corridor, a maid glimpsed on the main staircase, and children's voices echoing from empty rooms. But it is room 28 that anchors the schooner's reputation in tragedy. Local lore, supported by repeated entries in the hotel's own guest logs, tells of the De Vere family, an emigre household murdered in their sleep in the late 1700s. The parish burial register for 1792 lists 3 children and 2 adults, all sharing the Devere name, found dead on the premises. Since then, guests in room 28 have described the same sequence: the sound of a child pounding on a hidden door, a woman's scream, and the overwhelming sense of being watched. These reports, separated by decades, echo in the language of the witnesses, each describing the same phenomena in the same space, often at the same hour of the night. The hotel's approach to its reputation is neither evasive nor sensational. Management maintains an open access incident log, inviting guests to record their experiences. Extracts from these registers, now numbering in the thousands, reveal a pattern of continuity and testimony. The same rooms, the same apparitions, the same emotional responses. The volume of testimony is so substantial that in 2009 the television series Most Haunted devoted a full episode to the schooner, filming in room 28 and in the cellars beneath the main bar. The episode's production notes cite the hotel's exceptional density of independently logged incidents, a phrase rarely attached to sites of mere folklore. Despite, or perhaps because of, its reputation, the schooner remains fully operational, with rooms available to book throughout the year. The hotel's own marketing leans into the evidence, not away from it. For some, the draw is the possibility of witnessing something inexplicable. For others, it is the weight of history made heavier by the accumulation of names, dates, and statements that refuse to be dismissed. In the end, the schooner's distinction lies not in a single dramatic event, but in the relentless institutional repetition of the impossible. Here, in the quiet hours after midnight, guests continue to encounter what should not be there, leaving behind a record that is both a catalogue of fear and a challenge to disbelief.
I guess that was
Across
something
these 10
falling
hotels,
over. It just is like, why did it fall over? Initially, I didn't realize it was something that was there. I thought it was something moving across, and then now that I've seen it multiple times, like I see that it's falling over, but like, why?
Unyielding. Named witnesses, dated accounts, and recurring details accumulate in the same rooms, year after year. From BBC reporters to professional cricketers, their testimonies converge. Something inexplicable persists. These buildings are not just historical curiosities. They are active sites where, according to those who stayed, something that should not have been there was. Evidence remains, waiting for the next guest.
That's the end of the video. That was good. I enjoyed that. You guys would you stay in those? Are there any you wouldn't stay in? Or have you stayed in them? Or do you know somebody that has? Do they have experiences? You gotta let me know. Let me know in the comments. I enjoyed this a lot. If you know any videos similar to this that you guys enjoy and you want to see me react to, send them my way, because I love, love, love stuff like this. I know some of you are like, I don't believe it. Like I said, I've never had any kind of experience. I do know people that have, and I trust those people. So, and usually it's people that don't even like talking about it. They don't advertise it. They don't bring it up. But yeah, I liked that video a lot. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and have an awesome, awesome day. Thanks for watching with me, guys.